Many times this year, when we're introducing new content, you are going to be required to take notes on the content. The purpose of notes are a resource for you to refer back to when learning the content. So most people can't learn something effectively the first time they hear it or see it. So hearing a video lecture, writing, and then referring back to those notes will help you excuse me, understand the content better. So I want to take just a couple minutes to help you learn how to take effective notes. The first thing is most of the notes you're going to take are from a video such as this. Now, while taking notes from this video is not required, you may want to refer back to this often or jot down a couple things if you feel like you'll need to refer back to it. So the first thing is when you're watching one of these videos, you want to kind of pretend that you're actually in class watching a video or a live lecture. And so you want to make sure that you're completely and fully attending to the lecture. So when you're watching the video, make sure that you're sitting in a distraction-free setting. If that means moving away from your friends, putting on headphones and things like that, you'll want to do that. Keep getting the distractions away from you, making sure you've closed the other tabs on your computer. You don't have your phone sitting out, especially if you're at home. You're not on Facebook or anything like that that just cause distractions and will lead you away from the notes. Make sure you have your notebook, your composition book, and a pencil available for taking any notes. And use headphones. That really helps with the distractions. So when you're taking the actual notes, I'm going to move this up a little bit because you can't see the bottom. When you're taking the actual notes, do make sure that you're both listening to what I'm saying and reading what is on the screen. The information comes from both places. If you're just doing one or the other, you're going to miss stuff. Make sure that if there's diagrams or charts or graphs, that you're copying those down, not just the words and definitions. The great thing about the videos are that you're able to pause me. So if I'm going too fast, pause, take the time to write the notes down, and then play it again. Also, you can rewind me. If you don't understand something I just said, or if you need a clarification, go back and listen to it again. There may be instructions in the video for you to do certain things. For example, I may ask you to pause the video and answer a question, or there may be a question embedded in the video for you to answer. Make sure you do those along the way, as those will help you understand the content. And then finally, if you have questions, ask. Just because you don't have a live person in front of you doesn't mean that there's not me, teacher, available to answer your questions. Don't let it go by if you don't understand it. So the next couple slides I'm going to show you are some tips for actually taking notes from the lecture slide. So when you see a lecture slide like this, you're going to be copying down some notes. So how do you know what I'm having trouble talking today. How do you know what to write down and what not to write down? What kind of things can help you write notes that you're going to want to look back at and that are easy to read? So let's look at some note-taking do's and don'ts. Hopefully my pen is going to work here. Okay, so we're going to look at some note-taking do's and don'ts. So I'm going to try to write on this screen, see if it'll work for me here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go over a couple of the things that you want to do and what you don't want to do while taking notes. So the first thing is one of the biggest habits I see with middle schoolers and taking notes is that you feel like you have to write every single thing on the screen, and you certainly don't. So don't write every word. Or write as sloppy as I am. Well, that's a good next one. So don't write sloppy. If you can't read it, you're not going to use your notes. Okay? So what are some of the things you do want to do? How do you know what's important to write and what's not important to write? Well, one is you're not writing an essay here. So things like complete sentences, you don't need complete sentences. just write complete sent here. You can abbreviate. You can shorten words, and that's totally acceptable when taking notes. These are for you to refer back to continue to learn the content. So again, how do you know what's important? Well, teachers tend to use little tricks just like textbooks do. So some of the things you might want to look for are bold words, underlines, vocab. Let's do vocab there. All of those things are going to be hinted to in the lecture slides. Also, examples are good to help you understand. So again, one of the biggest tips is don't try to write every word. It's not useful, and you're unlikely to go back and read all of that. Try to abbreviate, shorten, and stick to the key points like the bold words and vocabulary. So let's look at what's next here. Oops, I need to get out of the pen part here. And we'll go to this next. Let's look at this example. So here I have an example of what you might see on a lecture slide. So it might say something like, safety is important in science class. Following procedures will help prevent accidents and injuries. Safe behavior not only protects you, but your classmates, teacher, and school property. Dressing properly in lab is one way to prevent accidents. The lab dress code includes having long hair tied back, pushing up long sleeves, and wearing goggles. Great, that's really important information. But when you're taking notes, you don't have to write all of that information. So if you look here, this person wrote every single word that was written up there. Also, this is all jumbled up. You can see there's no way you're going to want to go back and read that to find the important information. Also, they're not even neat and aligned with the correct, like this should be down here, right? So really important that you don't take your notes like this. So let's look at a way that maybe would be a little bit better. So here's the exact same passage, but notes that are a little more appropriate. So here we've got the person that broke it down into the two main topics, safety and dress code. And for safety, they pulled out the key points. We have prevents accidents and injuries, protects people and property. And then the dress code, they covered three main points in the dress code: tie hair back, push up sleeves, and wear goggles. This is much easier to look at. You can pull out the key points quickly. If you were to go back and study, they're right there for you. So finally, I want to look at the format that we're going to write our notes in. I do require that you take your notes in a 2-column format. I use the terms that Ms. Mueller uses so that we're kind of aligning there. So on the left-hand side, you're going to put your big ideas. For example, in the last slide, we had safety and dress code. And on the right-hand side, which should be the bulk of your space, this is where your notes are your supporting details or tell me mores. So this is where you're going to put definitions, maybe diagrams, maybe examples. So we're going to practice note-taking. You're going to take your first set of notes here shortly. So make sure that you follow these tips in order to take notes that you're going to want to refer back to and study from.